Hotel management rate cards. There are three basic type of rate cards that you deal with in hotel management. Our standard rate card, which just dictates a nightly rate for a specific time period. A standard rate card that has a standard rate but then fluctuates based on weekends. And thirdly, a package revenue. So it's a set rate, but included within that rate is, for instance, green fees, cart rentals, dining, spa booking. That type of revenue is split out to be inclusive in that nightly price. So to start, we're going to go to Hotel Management, Setup menu, and we're going to go to Rate Types. Before you can create a rate card, a new rate card, you need to have a rate type set up to link it. So we're going to add a new rate type. I'm just going to call it new. Complimentary should only be flagged if you're setting up a complimentary room rate. Notes and comments, whatever you type in here, will only show in this screen. Include on stats report. Normally that should be checked. The only time we would uncheck that is if this is a new rate that for some reason I don't want to show up when taking regular bookings. Exclude from yield management. So if you are using yield management within hotel management module, then you can tell it to exclude it from this. Suppress room rates. Exclude from rate display. Same thing when you're taking a booking. I don't want this to be one of the rates to show up. First night of stay is normally set to no for what we're going to be looking at. Then we're just going to click OK. Now I'm going to set up another one for purposes of setting up the package one, and we'll just call it package. So once you've completed the two rate types, we can then proceed to Hotel Management, Setup menu, Room rates and rate cards. So this is where we combine the room type and the rate type to dictate the rates that we're going to be charging. This main grid is just showing you a listing of all the current rate cards that are set up on the system. The bottom left is a filter that allows me to filter this down if I'm looking for just specific rate types. For instance, if I just wanted to look at member rate cards, rate types for all the different rooms, I can do that. Or by type, so we can say I just want to see all the rate cards for the rooms. So this is really only used when you're looking for an existing rate card. We're going to be creating new ones, so we're going to click on Create a new rate card. The effective until, the way the rate card works is the first date it wants is the expiry date of this new rate, not the start date but the expiry date. We're going to take it to the end of the year, and then which room types does this rate apply to. Now we're going to stick with just our standard rooms, so I'll do a double for our purposes, and then the rate type. So we should pick up our new rate code that we just created, and then effective from. So when do I want this to take effect? If I have seasonal rates, maybe this is going to take effect only in September. Description for this new rate, and then the type of rate. There are several options under type of rate. Most of our clients are only going to use nightly or package. In this case, we're going to use nightly. The billing code is a link back to the billing receipt codes. Remember, the billing receipt codes dictate any service charges, taxes, and are the tie-in to the general ledger for revenue. So basically we have a tier of rates for single, double, triple, or quad. So basically, what am I going to charge if there's one person in that room? And what are we going to charge if there's 2 people, 3 people, and 4 people? Now the one thing you need to keep in mind is whenever you're doing a rate card, even though you may only allow 2 people in this room, you want to fill in the highest rate for all 4. problem is if I leave these at 0 and I book somehow 3 people into a double, it'll come up with 0. So usually whatever my top rate is goes into the other ones that we're using. If we had this as a graduated rate, we could say then anything over 4 people I'm going to add an extra $50 to it. But we're going to keep this simple. It's 2 people in this room, and that's all we're ever going to book. Now if we're dealing with the standard rate with weekend rate fluctuations, then basically we can go to our weekend rates and set what those new rates will be. These rate codes will not be referenced unless you flag the appropriate day of the week. So what you need to do is tell it which days apply for the weekend rates. So I could say that just Friday, Saturday are the only 2 nights that apply the weekend rate. And then at that point I can set my weekend rate. Whether it's higher or lower doesn't really matter. It's whatever you are currently set up for. There is a date range for these weekend rates because maybe you only want them in effect during a certain time frame within the time of the rate cards activity. So once I've dictated this information, you can actually copy this to all the room types, but that means this same rate will apply to kings, suites, every type of room that you have set up. In most cases we're not going to do that. We're just going to simply click OK, and then at that point we're going to save time, look for that first rate card, pull it up, and we can use the save as to create the other rate cards. So basically save as makes a copy of it, and I can set the rate up, but for say my kings this time, and everything else is going to be the same except this is going to go up. And same with my weekend rates, and so on. Okay. Now the second type of card, or the third type I should say, is the package one. So same thing applies. When does this new rate card expire? What room type is it for? And what is our code, rate code for it? So it's my new package rate one. And it's going to take effect September 1st. Now in this case, if you're setting up a package component, what you want this to be is set to package. As soon as you flag package, the length of package and the package submenu become active. This length of package in most cases is going to be set to 1. Some clients may have the package apply for a minimum number of nights, which means if I put this to 2, that means if someone books but only books 1 night, this package rate will not apply. They have to stay at least 2 nights. Majority of our clients, they're doing their package rate card to break out components of the room rate, in which case it's always going to be length of package 1 night. Billing code, just with regular, we link it to the appropriate billing code that's dictating the taxes and the GL. Now the big difference here is that this rate that we're going to plug in needs to be the inclusive rate. In my example, I'm going to say that it's going to be $625 because this rate is going to include the room, a golf, green fee, and a breakfast. So I need this to be the all-inclusive price. Again, if you want to offer a weekend rate difference, you can do that through this right hand side. I'm going to keep it simple and keep it just standard rate right through the whole week. So at this point, if I go to package, this is where I can dictate how much is going to be broken out. So in order to break these out into package components, you have to have created billing receipt codes to drive the GLs where you want this other stuff to go. So I've already done that. I've got a billing receipt code to drive green fees, and I pick that one, and then show on folio. If you flag this, that means it will show the breakout on the folio. They'll see this much for room, this much for green fee, this much for food. Whereas for most package rates, we're not going to show it on the folio. When posted, you have a couple of options for when you want it posted. The most common one you want is N for nightly. That means every night audit it's going to post this out from the total rate. You could do A for arrival, which means it does it once on the date of arrival, or D for departure, which means it does it on the very last night. Again, for most package components, it's going to be nightly. And then how much of that $625 goes to green fees? Now, where you have to be careful in package revenue is, I'm going to say it's 125 of that total rate goes to the green fees if there's one person in the room. But if there's two people, that means there's going to be 2 green fees. So you have to increase it or appropriately to compensate for that. Now, as you allocate a portion of that total rate to these sub-billing codes, the remaining balance automatically goes into room revenue. So now I'm going to pick my food. I want that posted nightly, and I'm going to say so when I'm done with my package breakout, if there's one person in the room, it's going to put $125 each night to green fees, $25 to food, and the remaining $475 to my room revenue. 2 people, it's going to be $250 to green fees, $50 to food, $325 to room revenue, and so on and so on. The one thing to keep in mind with these rate cards is if you end up reducing the rate, or you allow people to reduce the rate on the individual reservations, if you lower the rate below the total of the components, you would effectively be into a negative room revenue. So whenever you try and lower a rate or override the rate card, say for our package one, you have to keep in mind that the system will tell you that you're reducing it too far. So if I were to reduce this rate for one person to 125, the system will prompt me to say, well, wait a minute, you're reducing it below the total of the components. I can reduce it to 150, which means my room revenue will be 0, but these will still hit. And that's it.